record. Are we recording? Yes. Go over here to thumbnail. Let's see. Rise Podcast, episode number 2. Maureen Kile with the Maureen Kile team, Coldwell Banker Select.
This is the Rise Podcast, brought to you by Firehouse Dryer Vent Cleaning and Tulsa Real Producers. Interviews with top producers, connecting, elevating, and inspiring you to rise above the crowd in your real estate career. And now your host, Mark Evans.
Hello, like the man said with the cool voice. I am Mark Evans, your host for the Rise Podcast. And tonight's guest I'm very excited about, and it is Maureen Kile from the Maureen Kile Group at Coldwell Banker Select in Tulsa. Welcome to the Rise Podcast, Maureen.
Thanks, Mark. It's good to be here.
I appreciate it. We'll just jump right in there. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your team, and before we get into the questions.
Okay. I am a retired Marine. I spent 20 years on active duty in the Marine Corps, and 16 of it was on recruiting duty. So I have gone through some of the most extensive sales training in America, thanks to the Marine Corps, and that makes this job a lot easier. And I became a realtor in 2004. I retired from the Marine Corps in 2004. Then I went back to school, finished my degree in biology, and then I went to real estate school in June of 2004, and I've been a realtor since then. I'm also a broker now. I started a team in 2016, and I have an amazing team. We're the top producing team in Oklahoma for Coldwell Banker.
Oh, that's fantastic. You kind of answered your question.
84 million last year.
What was that again?
We sold 84 million last year.
That's fantastic. What an awesome team. You kind of answered question 1, and that is, when did you begin your career? It sounds like it was 2004. Is that when you actually went into production?
Correct.
Okay. So what drew you? I mean, of course, being in the Marine Corps, and then your MOS, I guess you would say, would be you were in recruiting for a good portion
Well, I
of
started
that.
out. You don't start in recruiting, but yeah, I
Right.
became a career recruiter. Yes.
And so what then? It's such a different thing now, of course, what you're doing. So what drew you to a career in real estate?
Actually, it's identical to being a recruiter.
Really?
Except instead of recruiting people, it's houses.
Okay.
You still have to build relationships. I mean, it's the exact same skill set for prospecting to get someone to join the Marine Corps as it is to get someone to allow you to list their house. It's identical. So what got me into it was when I finished my degree, we adopted 2 special needs kids when I got out of the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 1 biological daughter and 2 special needs kids. And I went back to school to finish my degree in biology, and the entry-level positions in that field don't pay enough to, support a family.
Right.
It's like more for a kid that just graduated from college and, they don't have a house and, everything you acquire after, 20 years in the Marine Corps. So I realized I wasn't going to be able to do what I needed to do for my family in that position. So I decided that I would go into sales because that's what I'm good at, and that's what I've had done for the past 20 years. So I know a thing or two about it.
Right.
And it's not what I wanted to do at all, but it is. I knew I could make good money at it. So I just figured out what am I going to sell? I thought I would do pharmaceuticals, but then I promised my family that I wouldn't, be on the road all the time like I was in the Marine Corps. I was gone all the time.
Right.
And I told them I'll sleep in my own bed every single night. And so I wanted to honor that promise. So I knew pharmaceuticals was out, and I'm not going to sit in a car dealership and wait for people to come to me all day. So it's going to have to be something big and expensive. So houses seemed like the best idea.
That makes sense.
And so that's what I did. Shoot, hang on one
That's
second.
all right. See, that's what happens when you're a big producer. See, your phone's constantly ringing. See, that's just the life of a real estate agent, and especially a Tulsa Real Producer. So let me ask you this then: what one thing makes you the most proud? And of course, that could be either business or in your personal life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll keep it business related.
Okay.
I say being the top producing team a Coldwell banker. 84 million for 7 realtors is pretty astronomical number.
That's fantastic.
Uh, that's more than most companies do, and we're just a little 7-person team. So
Hmm.
I think that's what I'm most proud of is that production number.
Right. Yeah, you really built something, that's made to last. So if
Yes.
you, looking at or thinking back on or looking at younger realtors that have come into the game, if you had to start again today, because when they hear that number, that's their head may explode. But if you had to start again today, like they are,
Yeah.
what would you do different?
Nothing.
Makes sense.
I have a very unfair advantage over the average realtor, and that is I'm a sales expert before I even
Hmm.
began.
Right.
I mean, I've been in the the hardest sales environment on the planet
Hmm. Right.
is uh, Marine recruiter during wartime.
Right.
That is the hardest sale that there is. There is nothing harder.
That's absolutely. I totally understand that. Um, so if so, and I absolutely love that answer too. So did you have a mentor when you started, and if so, how important is mentorship in real estate?
And see, when I became a realtor, the sales part, I was already a sales expert.
Hmm.
I actually am certified to teach sales for Xerox and
Hmm.
for Learning International. I taught sales in the Marine Corps
Hmm.
to um, recruiters, but I didn't know the real estate side of things, so I needed some help with that. I just needed to be pointed in the right direction. Who am I supposed to be prospecting? In the
Hmm.
Marine Corps, you get lists from the high school, and that's who you prospect, the kids from the school.
Right.
Um, After they graduate, then those are your grad lists. Now, so I just need the equivalent of a high school list. Where do I get that?
Hmm.
And my mentor in real estate was the very best possible fit for me. It was Pat Cooley. And if you've been around real estate for a while, you know the name Pat Cooley. It's real estate royalty. She passed away several years back from cancer, but I would say she's my mentor. She's the one that helped me transition to from military to civilian because it was a little bit rough at first.
Hmm.
Had a few run-ins with people that didn't go well for them, but a good Marine always adjusts. So I
Right.
just realized this isn't the way people handle things here. They're not used to things being done this way. They're put off by the approach, and so you have to make some adjustments so that um, you can have really good relationships with other realtors, and that's very essential.
Sure. Well, I mean, this really is right in your wheelhouse. Team selling is prevalent, as we know, in real estate. So if you
Yeah.
were looking to partner, or for an agent, I should say, that is looking to partner with another producer, maybe someone that wanted to be on your team, and for instance,
Mhm.
what factors would you look for? And then what factors would you also consider a deal breaker?
Well, there's two. This is kind of a two-part question. To be on my team, I have very specific parameters. You have to. It's very time-consuming to take on someone who's brand new.
Hmm.
So I rarely will take someone who's new. It'd have to be a very a unique circumstance, like they're one of my clients.
Hmm.
And then I feel obligated to do it then.
Right.
Or a son or daughter of one of my clients, then I feel like I have to do it. But just someone out of the blue, brand new from school, with no sales background, no. It's just too time consuming and it requires way too much of my time that takes away from my teammates.
Hmm.
We have a very different dynamic on my team. We're very close. I wanted to build a team that's similar to a team you would have in the Marine Corps as far as camaraderie goes.
Hmm.
And trustworthiness, being able to count on each other. If somebody's sick and they need something done, there's no, I mean, there's not a single person on my team that wouldn't try to be the first one to help that guy, or I shouldn't say guy, but that person.
Right.
Um, so the rules for me is you have to be a realtor for at least 2 years, and you have to sell at least $3 million worth of real estate on your own. Then you can come on the team
Okay.
because then I'm going to take you to the next level.
Sure.
but you have to be able to at least, I don't want people doing things accidentally. You have to be able to at least sell 3 million.
Hmm.
Most people, after they sell their house and their mother's, that's pretty much it. And
Right.
that's just way too much of my time to take them from knowing absolutely nothing to being an expert in sales is very hard to do.
Right. That makes sense.
As far as, I mean, it takes so much away from me and so much away from my teammates because they need, I mean, they want me to bring their, you know, business to the next
Hmm.
level as well.
Right.
So 2 years at least, and at least 3 million are pretty close, and then we'll talk about it.
That makes sense. So,
Um,
what would be a
yeah.
deal breaker? I mean,
Okay.
obviously
The other
not
thing
having
is
those
customer service.
parameters for sure,
Yeah,
but beyond that,
customer service is the number one thing that I care about. I can fix everything else.
okay, makes sense.
So
So,
the only thing you need to care about is what happens to your client. Nothing else matters, and everything else will fall into place
hmm.
if you have that mentality. So if you don't, if you have a mentality about making money, or you're nervous and scared because you don't have any money, that's not what I'm looking for
Right. Okay.
on my
So
team. Customer service has to be there.
that makes sense. So, what's the most important risk you took along this journey, and why?
Um, Risks that I take, there's not really a risk for me in real estate other than the full commission, but I'm a sales expert. I
Hmm.
know I I already knew what I was doing when I began.
Hmm.
So that was never really a risk for me. Uh, I'm an investor, and so that's where my risk really
Right.
is
Okay.
flipping houses.
Hmm.
I flip houses, and I also um, have a bunch of rentals.
Okay.
So my risk really was sticking my neck out and using my hard-earned money
Hmm.
to buy houses and flip them, but I haven't made a
Right.
mistake yet. So
So yours was more of a capital risk as opposed to a career risk.
right, right.
So what if was there an aha moment in your career where the light came on and sales production took off?
It was long before I became a realtor.
Right. I figured you may say that
I can't get this
because of your
camera to
training.
really act right, but
So it was your
anyway,
training.
it was in the Marine Corps when I
Right.
realized that it's mathematical.
Hmm.
There is a cause and effect relationship between how much work you do
Hmm.
and how effective you are.
Right.
It's like a scale. I think of it as like a scale of justice.
Yeah.
If your scale is level, it's kind of a class that I give, but if your scale is level, if I'm one to one phone call, one contact, one appointment, one interview, and that one interview equals one contract being the listing agreement,
Hmm.
I'm one to one. That's about as effective as you can get.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't get any more effective than that. But if I need 3 contracts this month, I still have to do 3 phone calls, no matter how effective I am.
Hmm.
So as long as my effectiveness stays as planned and I do the proper amount of work, it's impossible for me to miss my assigned goal. So that I learned in the Marine Corps, and
Okay.
that was the difference between there'll never be a time that I don't meet my assigned goal or the goal I set for myself, unless I just don't do the prospecting.
Right. So it kind of goes back. I always think of that saying that says, "The harder you work, the luckier you get." I mean, there's
Pretty much,
a lot of truth to that. So,
right.
is there a favorite book that has helped you in your career?
Um, not really. I mean, there's some leadership books
Hmm.
that help me kind of motivate and inspire people who aren't doing what they've been trained to do. It's called "You Really Oughta Wanna" is what it's called
Hmm.
by a guy named Peter Pipe,
Hmm.
and it teaches you really. I mean, what mistakes people make in leadership positions is when someone isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, you want to give them training. Training isn't always the answer. They already know how to do it. They're just not doing it. So there's something. Uh, their way of doing things is more rewarding than your way, or your way is more punishing than their way, so they continue on, like the path of least resistance, really. So
Right.
being able that book helps you recognize, what actually needs to take place to correct this person's behavior,
Okay.
to
Right.
get him to do what I need him to do.
So as we wrap up, what technology or tools can you not live without?
Dot loop.
What was that again? I'm sorry.
Dot loop.
Okay.
Dot loop is, a game changer. It's, the
Mm-hmm.
electronic paperwork, so I don't have to drive an hour
Mm-hmm.
out, sit there for an hour, sign in the paperwork, drive an hour back.
Mm-hmm.
It saved immense amounts of hours in my day that I can prospect and sell instead of having to do paperwork. So that, to me, is the number one most efficient change in real estate since I began. Is
Mm-hmm.
before you have to drive out there, spend hours going over the paperwork, even just the listing agreement, and hours driving back. So
Mm-hmm.
those are hours I can prospect and
So
sell, and just absolutely increase your production just because you have dot loop.
dot loop. Okay. So I'll put that in the. I'll put a link for that in the show
Or
notes.
any, I mean, some people use DocuSign, but
Mm-hmm.
something
Right.
that's going to allow you to do stuff on the computer rather than, you know, the waste of time driving in
Absolutely.
person.
So, for those listening, if you could not have come away with at least, I can think off the top of my head, 5 to 7 key takeaways that could help propel your career forward and elevate, as we like to say, with at Tulsa Real Producers, then we need to go back and watch, listen again, because that was some pretty sage advice from someone, as you heard with the numbers. 84 million for a 7-person team is a staggering number, and really not quite, not surprising considering that training that you received. And I think I will speak for everyone and say thank you very much for your service, and I appreciate you being on the Rise podcast tonight, Maureen.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you as well.
Okay, now we can talk. So
Yeah.
let me hit
One other thing I
finish.
wanted to
Yes, ma'am.
say that
Let
I
me go
didn't say
back
on your
to the camera.
podcast.
Let me go back to the camera
Yeah.
so I can see you. There you go.
Yeah. One thing
Yes.
I wanted to tell you that I wanted to say I didn't say on your podcast was the team thing. I
Uh
see
huh.
a lot of new people coming out of school
Yeah.
starting a team. That, to me, that's a really bad idea.
Ooh, really? How did? Oh,
It's like the blind leading the blind.
yeah, exactly. You're just a team of, yeah. Oh my gosh, you're
What
exactly right.
a brand new
I didn't
person?
know
What are they
that.
going to do?
Yeah,
What are they going to do to help another brand new person?
that's exactly. What do either of you bring to the table? You're both wet behind the ears. You bring what? You're bringing a towel to,
I mean,
to dry the ears.
and
Wow,
I really think
I didn't know
now
that.
the team I see in the future, I see my team is like a small company within the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And I'm a broker, but not every team leader is a broker, and I'm not saying that that's something that I would advocate for, but I could see there's very valuable for the
Mm-hmm.
team leader to be a broker. You almost have to be. I'm acting like a broker.
Right. Exactly.
I'm solving the problems of the people on my team. I'm
Mm-hmm.
solving issues with clients. Complaints from clients come
Mm-hmm.
to me. So I really see in the future, probably the National Association of Realtors, requiring that a team leader be a broker,
Mm-hmm.
which that's going to
Oh,
stop
so
new
that
people
that's
from being.
not. I didn't. Yeah, it's not. That's not a requirement today, is it?
No,
Okay.
I don't like extra requirements.
Right.
I mean, I think logic should dictate,
Yeah.
what a person does, and if you join a team of a person that's brand new, that's really not a very smart thing.
No, and I understand I understand their what am I trying to say? Their logic is that they want to keep the barrier to entry low because they want you to be a
Yeah,
realtor. Obviously, I get that.
yeah.
So they're motivated not to put stumbling blocks, in front of you. But
No, you
um,
don't have a lot of extra. I mean, I like people to stay out of my business.
sure.
If you can do it, if you're brand new and you can do it and you do it well, and good for you.
Okay.
But for the most part, I think that's a bad idea. And
Right.
then I don't think a team is for everyone.
Sure. No, I
Um,
agree. Yeah. Some
the
don't.
way
It
my
just
team
depends
is
on your
set up,
dynamic.
we're not all individuals. Nobody. Some teams, the team leader is the only one who really gets any recognition.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Everybody
Right.
on my team has their own footprint.
Sure.
Um, we just do things together. I solve their problems. I help bring their business to the next level,
Right.
and then we fill in for each other when needed. But otherwise, we're just independent of one
Right.
another.
And that's where you throw the broker hat on, is when you're doing those issues, when you're solving those
Yes,
problems.
exactly.
Right. I appreciate that. When I get this, the podcast actually launches on Saturday at noon. And when your episode is coming up, I'll give you a heads up when it's going to post. And also, I'll start posting some things on social media, some coming soons and things of that nature. And I've got a little software that I use that will take little 30 to 60-second sound bites out of this larger interview, and can use that then for social media. And certainly, you can do what you want with it. I made a mistake yesterday. So just for instance, I'll be telling everybody this now. When I transcribed the software I used to transcribe her, the question was about the mentorship. And the microphone had a little bit of a crack right when she said had, and it went, I had a mentor, there's just a little pause there. And so the transcription picked that up as I have, and I didn't catch it. So I put it out there. That was 24 years ago. But it made it sound like he's her, and he's at McGraw now. He was at a boutique firm then. Well, now he's at McGraw, and she's at Chenoweth and Cohen. And she panicked. She says, she texted me. She goes, I just sent you an urgent email. And I immediately pulled it down and went back in and corrected the word to had, And so anyway, anything like that happens, please just send me a text and say, hey, that shouldn't happen. And I'll be, now that it's happened, I'm almost glad it did, because now I know to pay attention to the word as it's transcribing, and I'll listen back to it to make sure that software did it correctly. Because it's not a big deal between had and have, but it means a hell of a lot different, so, especially when that was 24 years ago. So, and her big deal was she goes, how's it going to look that I have a mentor at McGraw? I thought, yeah, I get it. Yeah, that is kind of odd. So anyway, I appreciate you, and I will start sending you those things and tagging you your team if that's okay. And if you have any issues with any of that, just send me a text or a cease and desist, and I won't do those. And I'll let you also know.
I'm not that finicky of a person.
I'm keeping them very professional. I mean, I understand that I'm putting things out there that are your name, so I would use the same due diligence that I would do for myself. At my company, Firehouse Dryer Vent Cleaning. Oh, and you said pharmaceutical. I had to bite my tongue. I'm a recovering pharmaceutical sales rep of 21 years. I got laid off in February, and I just thought, I'm too close to retirement. I'm getting ready to retire from the fire department as well. And I thought, man, do I really want to go another 3 or 4 years and go interview and put a suit on and have some, 30-year-old new district manager interview me? I thought, no, I don't. So I thought, I'm going to do something fire-related in residential. So I kind of, started doing research and thinking, what do I want to do? I knew one thing was going to be residential fire safety inspections. That was a no-brainer, because we can't do those as departments anymore. We just don't have time now that we do medical calls. That takes up 90% of our call runs. But then the dryer vent thing just kind of came about, and I researched it more and more, and I thought, man, there's something I really need to do. People don't think about that, especially realtors. They don't even have that discussion. That's not true. I started to say I've yet to have a discussion with a realtor who even brings that up to their clients. But I did have a couple say, we talk about it. But so anyway, that's when you said the pharmaceutical thing, I just chuckled inside because I thought, yep, been there, done that.
I get my dryer vents cleaned every 2 years.
Yeah, that's exactly what I told the couple I did today. They asked me, they're empty nesters, and they said, well, when should we do it again? I said, everything you read online is going to say every year, and my competitors are going to say, oh, let me be here next year. That's silly. You don't have enough volume to need to do that. So I said, I'll see you in 2 years.
If I have a real short run, it might be even less. But
exactly,
if I have a
short
long run that goes up into the attic or something, I need to.
And those are short runs. They generally don't call me unless they're elderly and they just can't do it, because most folks are just going to go outside, reach in, and they can literally reach in and grab the transition hose. It's 14 inches long typically through the wall. But anyway, I really appreciate you, and I guess I'll get on to the next one, and I'll stay in contact with when it's going to post, etc. Very much appreciate you, Maureen.
Thank you, sir. You have a good night.
You bet. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right.
Let's see here. Well, where the heck? Oh, did I? Oh, man.